My name's Carsten Hansen. I'm a lead designer or design lead, whichever way you want to put it. I've been everything from an intern to a junior designer, senior designer, and now a lead designer. I've been with the company 6 years now, and then with Decidual for 2 years. So I've been working with Brendan and the whole crew for around 8 years now.
Sweet, man. Wow. So you're pretty much like a lifer at this point.
Yeah, so ever since, graduation, I graduated from college. I was an intern in college my junior year with Decidual. Went back to school, did some freelance stuff for Young Life camps through Brendan and Christian, and then got offered a full-time job. And 2 days after I graduated, drove a U-Haul from Montana to Bellingham and
Dude,
started working with Brist at
that's
its infancy.
so your like design background is like purely with whatever your own personal endeavors have been and Brist essentially.
Yeah,
You haven't.
yeah. My full professional career, besides just like freelance jobs, is 100%, yeah, with the company.
Dude, that's epic, man. What makes Brist's design team special? Because I hear all the time that like it's our design that sets us apart, and like in your words, as someone who's been like a core, like at the core of that, what is it that makes it so special?
I think everybody learning from each other and everybody just being a hard worker in general. We're never settling. We're always like innovating. So what I always see is like any new hire, I want to learn just as much from them as they're learning from me because I've been out of school for a little bit. So all you get is kind of like the tutorials, the things that you pick up following people on Instagram these days. Anything that I research on my own, I learn. But everyone we've ever hired, I have taken something huge from them and learned like a great deal about all the programs, different ways to look at things, faster ways to do things. And so I think that's what keeps everybody fresh is every time we bring someone new on, it's just like completely new ideas and it pushes everybody to be better. And that's what I think has just propelled Brist forward.
Dude, Adobe's constantly updating their stuff, and they're like all these. Like, I'll go on a TikTok, and it's like, check out this new thing on Photoshop of how you can do that. I'm like, what on earth, man?
Yeah,
Like,
it's changing so fast.
yeah. Okay, actually, on that topic, what's your? So, I guess you're. I'm assuming you're an Adobe user, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much full Adobe. I always have been. So yeah, that's what I've stuck with.
Off the top
Haven't
of your
quite.
head, what's your least and favorite thing about the Adobe Cloud
The
and
Adobe Cloud.
and all the apps within?
I would say how far it's come, but then how many bugs come with each update because they update so often that it's like something that used to work perfectly, somehow they made it bug out and it's been in the system for like 15 years. Um, but yeah, that's about it. It's basically dealing with bugs is the only issue with Adobe. It's
Yeah.
like one every once in a while it'll just go black and crash on you and you lose an hour or so of work and you got to go redo it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable how they serve how they serve the updates and how sometimes it's like great, but then there's gonna be like old versions and open up like an old file and it pops up this old version. You're like, why is that still on my computer? And it's
Yeah.
so ridiculous. But all right, man, we're gonna get into just some like kind of basic questions here so that way everyone can get a better idea of who Karsten is and what you're all about. So first one is there a song or artist that has been like on repeat for you in the past like month or even summer or something that's just been like you've been jamming it a lot?
The past month or summer, I would say I've been listening a lot to like Machine Gun Kelly's new album that's
Nice.
with Travis Barker.
Yeah.
Like totally brought me back to like middle school, Blink 182, all of that stuff. So I've been jamming that kind of just and then diving deep into like old, like kind of punk grunge music.
Dude, nice. What's punk and grunge for you?
Also, yeah, just going back to things like Nirvana and I'm trying to think of some other ones that I've been listening to.
The That Machine Gun Kelly album was like I was so surprised because he had put out a couple singles that were in that like pop punk kind of variety, and I was thinking like, is like this a gimmick, or is he actually going to put out an album like this?
Yeah.
And then he put out the album, and I was like, all right, I respect the hell out of that.
Yeah, I was really surprised with what he came up with and that he had like legit people on the album.
For sure, man. Have you heard of Kenny Hoopla by any chance?
I haven't actually.
You gotta check out Kenny Hoopla. Super young
Okay.
dude, but like Travis Barker's drumming on all of his stuff.
Oh, nice.
Also, Travis Barker, like having survived a plane crash and doing as much as he does, I'm like, you are no longer, you're superhuman at this point.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, especially how much older he is than all these guys. And he's just like, now it's like every music video, he's like in the background playing drums. And you're like, wait, how are you everywhere
Yes.
at once?
Yes, exactly. So like, and he's in like all of Kenny Hoopla's music videos, and this guy's got to be like early 20s, but he is really
That's sweet.
good. He's really different. If you dig the Machine Gun Kelly album and like that whole like Blink 182 nostalgia, definitely check him out.
Oh, yeah.
All right, next one. Favorite movie. It can be a movie or TV show.
Right on.
It can either be of all time if you have it, or just something that recently you were like, that really knocked my socks off.
Right on. Yeah, one of my go-tos is always Dazed and Confused. Just love that era. And just like everything was cool back then, and like
Oh
everyone
yeah.
had like the craziest clothes and like all the like hot rods and like sweet cars from that era. And then just the classic, I think, would be like Forrest Gump. Just like can never go wrong. Yeah.
Dazed and Confused and Forrest Gump. Those are some killer ones, man. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was like early McConaughey,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
dude, it's what a yeah, it's such a different time in America for both of those movies,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
All
That's
right,
very
cool. So next one we've got here, favorite food, I've been kind of splitting it up with this question. Favorite food of all time, if you have one, but then also like your favorite place to eat in Whatcom County / Bellingham.
okay. I would say favorite food has always been lasagna. My grandma made a killer lasagna, so that was always my favorite. Still is. Go to a good Italian restaurant and get some good lasagna. That's been a great one. And then lately, like Whatcom County, like Culture Cafe's menu has been like super good. Like I've been surprised. And so that's been a fun one that have been hitting up for lunch lately.
Dope. I feel like Culture Cafe has gone through so many like iterations of its existence. And to your point, like last time I was in Bellingham, I was like, oh wow, like they really like elevated what they're doing here food wise.
Yeah. Yeah, I was surprised. So that's just the one that like popped to mind right away that's like just been better lately and has some different stuff, like some poke bowls and things like that that are really seem fresh.
For sure. So okay, back to the lasagna topic though. What's the best lasagna in Bellingham?
Um, I would say Deanna's has a really good one. Yeah, that one's like hard to beat. That one seems pretty traditional, straightforward.
All right. So next question, kind of like sliding back into the design topic, is like, do you have a design that you've done while working at either Decidual or Brist that was like one that was like a particularly memorable for you, or something that was either like something you really enjoyed doing, or was a challenge where the outcome like made you really excited and you felt like there was something that really happened there?
Yeah, I would say one that really stands out to me, which is kind of a funny one, is like the surf chicken and has been like talked about through like Brist for years now. And just kind of like how that grew me as an illustrator. When I did that, I like didn't illustrate much at all. I was basically a lot of like typography and all these things. And then Chelsea started working there, started to see someone that can do caricatures, like actually be able to draw like off the top of the head, and started to try to learn it. And so just kind of sketched out this surf chicken, and then just kind of it didn't get chosen in the team, like the sales team around me. Just like basically like the goal being like, we will sell this, like this is cool. And that led me to try to like find an illustration style, which now has like grown into these pieces that now I'm super excited about, which are like the stuff for Jackson Hole, with the cowboys and horses, and extra tough, and also like Fly Lords, that line, which I got to showcase like an illustration ability that I'd never truly had before. I remember when I started, like my anatomy was all off. Chelsea helped me do that. I drew like one thing, like a hand was backwards, and Chelsea helped me like fix it and different things like that. So just like having a team around you. So I think like the surf chicken was like the start of like me being like, you know what, I'm gonna try to draw stuff that's not necessarily real, like a chicken skateboarding with a surfboard, like headed to the ocean and adding on to that. So it's kind of grown my style and just showing people or animals doing different things. And then now leading to like the skater gator, which was like my last one, which I was super stoked on because the anatomy of a skateboarding alligator was super difficult to wrap my mind around. But because of all of this, it like got me to that point to where I can do that now. So that one really stands out, I think.
Right on, man. That's cool. I love the Skater Gator one. I
Thanks.
was actually just working on a post that we're gonna get up soon for that one because like I also really love the colors that you used for that.
Thanks. Yeah, I love the just kind of like softer tones, more like fall outdoorsy colors.
Definitely, yeah. And that's also like what you were describing is a very interesting jump for a designer. I mean, I think we all go through our seasons of our like our design ethic and approach. And a lot of times like typography, especially if you're working within apparel, is where you start. But then you always will see like every once in a while those pieces that have like those crazy illustrations on them.
Yeah.
And it's just like, man, that would be cool to do. So to hear that like kind of what your journey was in getting to that point to where like I'll see designs within like the Brist like portfolios and I'm like, oh, that's for sure Karsten's like illustration. And getting to a style I think is like a pretty cool thing. So that's pretty sweet. So now, I mean, that kind of goes into my next question, and maybe it is or isn't. But like, do you have like a favorite design style or like a designer that you think has like informed the way that you go about your design?
Yeah, I think so like I said, starting in typography, like David Carson is a huge like influence on me ever since college. I did my senior like design project on David Carson and pushing the limits of typography and what is legible and what isn't legible. And he's done great things with that with massive companies, which is basically just breaking all the rules that you were taught in college and in like just design school, and that you're not breaking them, you're just changing them to make them interesting. Because everyone was doing the same thing, but not everyone's Apple. So not everything's going to be gray and white or gray or black and white and things like that. So him and then also Rick Griffith, they call him the Horned One. He owns Matter Design out of Denver, Colorado. Got to hear him speak and talk and just connected with him. Um, just on the fact that like he is so old school type, like still does everything by hand, does really cool stuff, carves out his own letters, but also like his philosophy behind everything is great and just trying to make the world a better place and a more beautiful place. And so he's got really cool books as well and things like that, and is just a great guy in general. So two people that are very type heavy, like that's all they do. They're print, they're type. And so I learned from that, and then that's to where it's been fun at Brist to meet new people and learn things. And I had type pretty dialed in from my schooling, and then now I've been able to approach it in a new way of adding my type into my illustrations, which is kind of what you need for screen printing and putting people's logos. You have to fit someone's logo, and you can't manipulate it too much. So you have to be able to work with type and illustration. So I think those things really grew me, and those people really stood out of you can break the rules and you can do things your own way. And that's kind of now what we're seeing in streetwear. And then now it's like 10 years later, these guys were talking about it. And then now it's just like all over the map. It's like glitch things out, chop it up, see how far we can push it to where you're like, wait, what does that say? But it draws people in. So
Yeah, man, I think that's like what you just said is such a great point is it's like how much can we like it's that whole boundary of like do we intrigue the person who's like looking at this piece of apparel because it's so different, or do we get their attention because it's so obvious?
mm-hmm.
And that's a kind of like an interesting spectrum to try to ride on. I think that some designers just are like, for example, like Supreme, right? It just says Supreme, so you know exactly what it is. Whereas like some other brands, like it's a lot more distorted, and but like that in itself can become a brand as well.
Yeah.
Down the road. Really quick question, did you do the David Carson masterclass by any chance that just came
I
out?
didn't. I saw it. Yeah, I saw it, and I've been like wanting to watch it and do it, but no, I haven't. That was one thing like in this I was going to recommend for people if they have time, go and like listen to any podcast by him or anything. He's just like a great guy in general. And he was the art director for Surfer magazine for years. He's done stuff for like Nike. He did the Nine Inch Nails covers when they were like in their heyday. So he's a really rad dude and has like a really cool mindset on like not listening to like the bad people's comments and like tearing you apart, and just the people that are building you up, and that he knows that he's doing something right. It's just not the way some people want it done.
Definitely, man. I couldn't agree more. And like for me, like I'm a big fan of Nine Inch Nails and Trent Reznor, and anyone who would like trust, like if Trent Reznor trusts someone to work on their album art, this individual must be like a legend.
Yeah, exactly.
Like being such a like creative powerhouse himself. But yeah, dude, I've started the master class for David Carson. And it's like it's cool because he says like things that are like there's some obvious things, but there's some also like pretty transcendent things. But you know that it's like, of course, there's not like laws in design, but what he says is like you can pretty well trust that's about as close to law as they'll get, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have another question that relates to a lot of what we're talking about, but what's the hardest part about keeping designs unique, especially when dealing with, high volume and not only just within Brist, but just the simple fact that like the apparel industry is gigantic and a constantly like growing infinite universe.
Yeah, I would say the big part of it for me is always searching for like a reason or kind of like a backstory in the designs, coming up with something unique. Like everything basically like in art is taken from something in the past. So for me, it's finding like a lot of resource material and inspiration from other people, and then coming up with my own story and idea of why I designed something some way. Um, I'm sure if you asked any of the designers at Brist about any of our pieces of art, we could probably give you a long run on backstory of like why we did this, and what mood and feeling it should have, and all those different things that make kind of Brist unique, that there is thought behind everything. It's ideas bouncing back and forth between sales and design and different things. And it's just like the skater gator, it's like they see something like the surf chicken, they would really like something like that, but they want something that fits their brand and what they do. And so being from Louisiana, we're like an alligator would be super rad, just like skating and like drooling in the heat. And so it's kind of a process of thinking like where this came from and where it has to end. And so building a story around it, I think, is the big part for me, because without that, it's just another basic t-shirt that you can get anywhere. With us, it's like we could sit down with any client and explain like why we did this and where it's coming from. So I think that's the biggest part.
Yeah, and I think that that's like the stuff that anyone who hires a creative team, that's what they want to hear, is that there's intentionality and thought behind it, because that's what makes the design worth it. Otherwise it's just like, yeah, we ripped this off from this company and
Yeah.
it'll probably sell, but but it's like, who cares at the end of the day? There's
Yeah.
no like, actual attachment to it. What makes a dream customer for Brisk? Like, what does a dream customer for you look like in terms of like how they come to the table with a project that you are like, this is going to go well?
I think having some sort of direction or idea of what they want, it's kind of like it's two-sided. One is it's great when we're given all the freedom in the world and it's like make really cool stuff, and it's something that fits our demographic and something that we're already a part of. Like anything for me, that it's like when we do stuff for like music festivals, fly fishing, skiing, anything in the mountains outdoors, like that's kind of our like sweet spot. And so that we don't need much direction. But when we start going into other areas, we like to get their backstory. What is meaningful to them? What do they want to look like? So anytime we get a mood board, anytime we get a little blurb that this is what they want to look like, these are the companies they like are inspired by and that they want to be in the future, that's a great client. So it goes both ways, to where you either have the client that it's like do whatever you want, but they already have a solid brand, or it's really hard to work with people that are like do what you want, but their brand's kind of all over the place. They don't have a direction. They don't have a demographic. It's just a shotgun blast at that point. So anything that we can dial in and really run in one direction is the best client to work with, because then our focus can be on artwork instead of on a ton of research to figure out 6 different directions to go to then narrow it down. and then have to make 6 more pieces in that direction. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's about it.
that makes a lot of sense, man. That's a killer answer. I've got one more for you. Um, what's a dream client that you'd love to see Brist work with, that you'd love to do design for, or even if that's too specific, like an industry that you'd like for Brist to like add to the hopper or hone in on?
Yeah, I think one that I've always, and I think this is just like a childhood dream, like the whole like I always wanted to grow up and design like t-shirt graphics and all of that. So it's amazing to be here. And my second was to do skateboard graphics. And so I think working with like a skate company and doing designs like for riders, like I love like how the boards, like each one is specific, like the same category, but all different based on like the rider and what they do. So I'd say like a skate company would be really cool. A big name skate company. And then also K2 Skis has always been one that's been like on the radar. We've been really close to working with them, but I would love to do that just because I'm a huge skier, and it being like in my eyes the best Northwest like ski company that builds just like bomb proof skis. It'd be awesome to just like get to work and be a part of like what they do.
Dude, yeah, that's awesome. I think that I can definitely see us working with either of those kinds of clients and totally killing it. It would be really sweet to get on like kind of like a younger skater who's just like coming onto the scene and like developing like a line that would, you know, relate to not just a line of tees, but like hats, socks, skate decks, you know,
Yeah.
the whole nine. Sweet, man. Well, that covers it up. Before I let you go, is there anything else about you know, Brist's design, Brist as a company, or your perspective on how this whole industry works that you'd want to share?
No, I mean, I think that Brist has been doing a great job of like moving forward and all through like all the ups and downs, like coming up with solutions. And that's what designing is all about. A graphic designer is just here to solve a problem and come up with a solution. And so I think the great things are that working for a company that we get to be heard, we get to work on those solutions, we get to be a part of it. And yeah, it's been a great ride so far. And I can't wait to keep going because I think we're just getting somewhere. I think it's got a lot more growing to do, and then we're going to be at an amazing place.